Welcome into another episode of the Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Drew Landry. And before we get into this week's free post of the week and your free audio, I want to give a quick shout out to my friends at the Mediocre Movie Club. The Mediocre Movie Club is a self-professed group of idiots who give above average, nothing great, nothing awful, but just searching for that middle satisfactory reviews of all things media. You can find the Mediocre Movie Club on Facebook for searching for Mediocre Movie Club. You can find them on X at Mediocre Movie CL. And you can find them on Instagram and on Threads at Mediocre Movie Club. As always, you can jump on over to their website and join in on the discussions and all their reviews at finding their website at mediocremovie.club. That's mediocremovie.club. Now, today's, a bit of content today has something to deal with that I have found to be rather annoying. And this is mainly for the City of Lubbock. And look, whenever I do this cast and I do these things, sometimes I'll spend some time. Sometimes I will actually look at some of the things happening within the hub city. And look, if I'm talking about you in some manner, that doesn't really mean that I'm always angry at you, nor does it mean that I'm on your side. It means that you've got my attention and you are going to be put on, I don't want to say on alert or whatever the phrase is, on some sort of what's it, max or whatever I forget what the heck it's called, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to put you on it. The word will come to me later. The lingo just escapes my mind for the moment. But when I look at this sort of thing, it's interesting because there's been some happenings within the city in the last few months. And what needs to be said here is that you have to have some context. For those who don't live around Lubbock, for those who are outside of the city, you have to know about what's been taking place here in order to kind of understand what my perspective is. So here's a brief rundown. And if I make somebody mad by my recollection of all this, you can feel free to email me at drew.landry9@gmail.com. Yes, that's my real email. Yes, that's the one you can actually send it to. But with that all said, let's understand a couple of things here. What's happened in the city these last few months has been, in my view, a lack of leadership. So I say all this because in October of 2023, the Lubbock City Council voted to make that a sewer line that connects from your house to the alley is actually yours, and that if something happens to it, you have to pay for it. You got to pay to get it renewed, and you got to pay to get it refurbished or repaired or whatever else. And so that didn't really seem like a big deal until it became a big deal. Props to the folks over at KLBK, which is the CBS affiliate here in Lubbock, who started to find some Lubbockites who started to have to pay like $4 or $5 grand for a plumber to repair their line. And then came KCBD's investigative reporting from Shaylee Kidwell, who used to be formerly known as Shaylee Sanders, found that there were many people throughout the city who had busted lines, and they were getting estimates for $6,000, $7,000, some even for $11,000, some even up to $15,000. And used to, that would be the city's issue. The city would come and take care of it, and that would be it. But what's interesting here is that the demand that needed to be met, or the mess that needed to be fixed, however you want to phrase it, is that the city felt that there's too much of a call list. There was too much of a backlog for the city to actually meet that. And so they wanted to alleviate this pressure by privatizing, in a sense, one's water line, one sewer line that would connect to the alley. Okay, that seems like a reasonable thing. I can get that. Like if you call the city and say my sewer line in my backyard is all backed up and I'm having an issue here, I need to schedule somebody, and you go without water or running water or anything like that for a few days, you start to feel that pain, and that's and that's a problem. And so what the city essentially was saying here, you can fix it yourself, and at no charge to you. And by when I say no charge to you, the city's not going to charge you for you to fix this line for yourself. Okay, that explained. The other problem with that is that you had to pay for the plumber to come out, and also know the fact that this plumber had to be certified by the city. All right, which is also kind of a good thing too, because you don't want random plumbers running around and who aren't certified to totally mess up this line. So I kind of get that too. But the kicker of it all was, well, and we're doing this also to save money. And they gave a projection that this sort of, and they being city leaders, and you can find this all throughout the media within Lubbock. If you just do a Google search for Lubbock sewer line 2023 or 2024, you can find it. But they argued here that we're going to save anywhere between $800,000 to $1 million. Now that sounds like a lot of money, and for me it is. And if you're able to save me that money, okay, that sounds great. But let's look at the budget of Lubbock. The Lubbock budget is about pretty daggone close to a $1 billion. That's a B, billion dollars. You know how much $800,000 is to $1 billion? Not even a whole percent. $1 million to $1 billion? There's your 1%. That's a pretty small number. So they want to save some peanuts by cutting back on services. That's what this is, folks. That's exactly what. There's no ands, if, or buts about it. Now, you want to, if that's your calling card, then you have to accept this sort of criticism. But if your calling card also is to say, well, we want to alleviate the pressure of city public works of doing of this backlog that they're facing, okay, I can understand that. But why not come up with a policy that says, if you want to fix your line, okay, go right ahead. We won't, we'll help you with that in some way, okay? Let there be some sort of mechanism that the city can help you do this. If you want to fix your own line, hire your own plumber, whatever the case may be, not penalize you for it. That's actually pretty smart. But to say that you own the line now, and that you're going to be responsible for all the costs, that's a bridge too far. And all this came to light with the local media doing investigative reporting, and all good on KCBD, which is the local the Lubbock NBC affiliate. Good on KLBK, also good on the Lubbock Avalanche Journal for doing this. Alex Driggers for the Lubbock AJ has done a really good job of trying to find the why in a lot of things. So, hats off to them. And also, you have to say hats off to some people who have acted on this. A Lubbock City Council member who's running for mayor by the name of Mark McBrayer was asked by KCBD's investigative reporting team, did you ever think that this was going to be a problem? And, there's this gif out there of the little girl sitting like on a table, with a coloring, doing some coloring, and she gives this shrug like, I don't know. That's how essentially what Mark McBrayer's doing. He's just kind of shrugging. I never thought it was going to cost like this. I never thought that. I had no idea. The other city council member who was running for mayor was Steve Massengale. And Massengale defended his vote, and you can go find the quote there. I don't need to provide it for you, but it's public, and he basically says, yeah, it was the right thing to do. Well, shortly thereafter, all this came about. McBrayer goes on the record and says, we need to reconsider this. You think? Well, Massengale, Councilman Massengale, and Councilwoman Latrell Joy make an announcement to say, we're going to call for the city council to redo this thing. And so a couple weeks ago, there was a city council meeting to say, we're going to officially try to backtrack on this. We're going to do a second reading. I want us to backtrack on this. And so you had 5 of the city council members. You had 1 vote no and 1 abstain. I'm sorry. Maybe it was 4-1-1. Yeah, that's what it was. 4 voted for it. 1, no, I'm sorry. It was 5-1-1. Yeah, my bad. And the one who voted against it was the mayor, Mayor Trey Payne. The one who abstained was City Councilwoman Christy Martinez Garcia. And, okay, they all have reasons for it. But Mayor Payne has been rather steadfast in his, I don't know what to really say here, his stubbornness. He's been very headstrong in his call for this, which makes me think he's got some skin in the game. That he's possibly behind some of this stuff. Maybe he's got some sort of stake in the matter. But he just doesn't want to give in to the populism of this issue. Whereas Councilwoman Latrell Joy was pretty clear to say, hey, we were wrong. Like, she admits that. We were wrong. We did the wrong thing here. And then Councilman McBrayer and Councilman Massengale and another councilwoman who represents the southwest side of the city, who oddly enough is being very quiet throughout this, which is not really part of her nature. They all vote in favor of this. They all say, yeah, we were wrong. Let's reverse course. And also, Councilwoman Sheila Patterson Harris also says this has the same mentality. We were wrong. Let's redo this. Let's rethink this sort of thing. Well, the end result here was they're going to have a temporary committee, an ad hoc committee, to investigate this. And so yours truly has contacted his city council member to ask to be appointed to this committee so that I can be part of this process. I would love to be part of it. I've always wanted to serve on a board or a commission, and I never get chosen for it. I wonder why. But and that's okay. But I'm hoping that I can be picked for this, and I think I would love to learn and ask some very intriguing questions. That aside, all that aside, Mayor Payne, well, he was on a local radio show, and the guy who has the show is a friend of mine. I have no problem of saying this. Wade Wilkes is a friend, and Wade Wilkes has a radio station out here in Lubbock. It's a AM station, mainly AM. Has some FM also. It's AM 580, and he's got a morning show. And Wednesdays are the city show. Used to be the mayor's show, but it's the city show, and mainly because Mayor Payne didn't want to be on the show every single week. He openly says that. And usually Wade records the shows and will publish them on SoundCloud. But I was looking for it just before I got on here to see if I couldn't provide some audio for you of Mayor Payne's appearance, and it's not on there. It's not on there when I'm recording this. But one of the things that Mayor Payne dealt with, one of the issues that he talked about, was the sewer issue, because there was someone who texted in and they was going to save that, I guess, for another segment. And so the co-host, Kim Davis, says, let's talk about the sewer issue. Okay. And he was the only one to vote. Well, he was one of 2 people on the council to vote no on this. All right. Well, and they were asked why. Why'd you vote no? And he says, well, he felt that this was going to raise taxes on the people. That reversing this sewer line issue, having it going back to the way that it was somehow going to raise taxes on people. Huh? He never explains how that's going to raise taxes, by the way. Not once. He's never explained how that could actually raise your taxes. He may dispute that, and that's fine. Let him dispute it. No problem. And heck, call me out. I'm all for that. You know, if I can help the people understand something better, I am not going to shy away from that. But he goes on and says how this is, it's good policy. It needs to stay that way, but I lost the vote, and that's just the way that it is. And so, we're going to move forward with this ad hoc committee to study this issue. You know how frustrating that is? That is such a tip of the hand to Councilman McBrayer and Councilman Massengale, because they're running for mayor. And they want to say that, well, I voted for that to be reversed, and I voted for that to really be studied. Come on, dude. Let's just understand here. They only did this stuff because they were caught. This is where the Lubbock media did its due diligence and found out that it's not actually helping people; it's actually harming people, and so they felt bad about that. Really what they did was that they felt bad that they got caught. And, I have to give Latrell Joy, Councilwoman Joy, a lot of credit here, because she's the one who actively says, we were wrong. This wasn't presented right to us. We were wrong. So good on her for actually admitting that, and you got to give her props on that. The other thing that I want to mention here, well, to continue on with this, furthermore, Payne's on the radio this morning on my friend Wade Wilkes' radio show. And he's talking about the sewer line thing, and yours truly calls in and says, so, I asked him what the problem that they were wanting to solve, and he explains it. What I said earlier, trying to alleviate the backlog of the casework for utilities, and trying to help that out. But then he said also to save money. And then I bring up the fact of that, okay, and you're wanting to save $800,000 out of $1 billion budget. Huh? Yeah, that's and I said the word to him. I said that's peanuts. If you remember when I had Dr. Nick Bergfeld as my first host on this podcast, and he said this is peanuts. So when I brought that up to him, he said, people say that, and that's not the case. That's a lot of money to be saved. So what that means to me is they're perfectly fine with wanting to save money when it comes to services. But when you look at if you take a hard look at the earners of city government, that's where your problem is. Let's just compare this just for a minute to public education. You will not find a bigger defender than of public ed than myself. Maybe Troy Reynolds, maybe Charles Johnson, maybe those with AFT, maybe those with TSTA. Maybe they're all there too. But I'm telling you, I go on the front lines and I defend public education a lot. I go out of my way to make sure that is an entity that we fight for and that it's worth conserving and it's worth saving. But one thing that even I will admit is that in a lot of cases, the money in public ed is top heavy. There is a lot of overhead to it. There is. And that is always a good way to start for reforming things. In the city government breakdown here, there's a lot of overhead. All right? There's a lot of stuff at the top. All right? And if you really want to if austerity is your true calling, if that's your true north, there's a whole lot of meat and potatoes for you to start inside the city in and of itself. Make no mistake about that. But if you're wanting to skimp on dessert for the sake of saving money after you've ate, a 9-course meal, but you skip the 10th course because that's too much, then you're missing the point. You're not in it for saving money. You're just using services as an excuse to save money. That's what that's about. And when you call out the leaders on that for that very thing, they get incredibly defensive and they're embarrassed. Because, you actually did math. And folks, math is not my strong suit. I am not a math professor. That is 100% not me. But when it's math that I can do and I'm right about it, then I'm very stubborn about this thing. So when I told Mayor Payne this, and he goes, "Well, that's not nothing. That's not peanuts." Excuse me. And then I say, "Well, if you want to show austerity, then there's other places inside the city that you can cut." And then I hung up the phone. And then I heard what he said next. He goes, I don't understand what he just said there. I don't understand what he just said. Which means that he's been blind to the real cuts and the real aspects of saving taxpayer money for the last 2 years of him being mayor. But good on Wade to say this. He goes, I think he was saying that there's other places to cut than just on services. And I was waiting to hear what the mayor said after that, but I missed it because I had to take a phone call and then I had to start class. But this is the ongoing issue here, is that when you call people out for what they say that they are and they're not being that, then they don't like it. And I understand that. I wouldn't like it either. But the fact that they're not willing to put that aside and want to hear what you have to say and hear your point of view, and if you view that point of view wrong, then show the data. So if this particular part gets back to anybody within the city or gets back to the mayor, you can get my phone number and you can call me and you can email me or whatever, and you can tell me, hey, let's set up an appointment. I want to show you the numbers here. Okay, fine. I have no problem with that. Not even a little bit. But as I said earlier, I would have that information for you had it not had this whole thing been recorded. But I can't find it anywhere in order to record it or to actually find the recording in and of itself. So if it's out there, I can't find it right this very second. But do note that I have looked for it. Okay? Now, the other part that I want to mention here is another Lubbock City issue. And this issue here with the city has to do with public pools. And again, if you don't live in the Lubbock area, you're going to look at this and just go, oh my gosh, why do I subscribe to this dude again? Don't say that. But I have to, you have to, really attend to your audience. And most of the time I spend my time talking about state stuff, but I'm spending some time here on Lubbock City issues. And Lubbock has had its share of pools, public pools, until this particular summer. As it was reported, again, from Alex Driggers from the Lubbock AJ, and I'm reading his piece that was posted this morning, or yesterday, whenever you're hearing this, Wednesday, April 10th. Clapp Pool, Lubbock's only remaining city-owned swimming pool, will be closed this summer. The Lubbock City Council learned during a work session Tuesday afternoon the 1950s-era pool's pump systems need extensive repairs that could take months, meaning the pool cannot open for the 2024 season. The pool's water balance tank, an essential filtration component to keep the pool water level constant, is damaged beyond repair. There's a word we would say that in college, FUBAR. You can Google that. With no fiscally feasible option to replace it, said Colby Van Gundy, the City of Lubbock Parks and Rec director. A complete replumb of the pool could keep it operational for a few more years, but it would take 4 to 6 months to complete at a cost of $325,000 that he noted. I cannot open Clap Pool, Van Gundy said, citing staff safety. You're going to continue to have failures, and the last thing we want is one of our staff in and something happens. Council took no action on the pool. Clap Pool, which is located near Clap Park on 46th and Avenue U in Lubbock, was originally slated to open next month on May 26th. Just in 2 years ago, the city council voted to close and demolish 3 of Lubbock's 4 municipal pools and replace them with splash pads. Okay, leaving Clap Pool as the only remaining public pool owned and operated by the city of Lubbock. Council at the time designated $5.1 million in federal COVID relief funds to build splash pads, raise May Simmons, Maxi, and Montelego pools. According to budget presentation from the Times, splash pads would deliver a significant operations cost savings for savings for the city over the cost to repair the 3 pools and bring them into code. Montelego pool closed the summer before due to similar water balance tank problem and other repair needs. The splash pads are expected to open by summer this year. So, in short, there's not going to be any pools in Lubbock for the summer of 2024. And look, I'm not somebody who goes to pools, but I can tell you as a kid, I went to pools, and it's pretty disappointing when this doesn't happen. Look, there's a mayoral candidate named Adam Hernandez, who's a community organizer here in Lubbock, and he's got some plans, and you can go to his website if you want to check those out, about how he wants to bring back the pools. I have no problem with wanting to repair things. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But as you can imagine here, this sort of criticism gathered a lot of criticism from people. And one of the council people, Councilwoman Christy Martinez Garcia, suggested the city move forward with a temporary fix until the council can find a more permanent solution. And this is her, quoting her here. The black eye for the city was closing the pools, she said. I don't want to see another pool closed, but I get it. I think in this case for me, I would band-aid the problem just until we can figure something out. It's hard to say, put money into it, when we could be channeling that money into something new, but just PR-wise, I think for me, it would have to be to support the Band-Aid problem, and that's a tough call for me. So I kind of know this councilwoman. I don't know her well, but we've met several times, and she's genuinely a nice person from what I gather, but this isn't a tough call. I take tremendous umbrage with this sort of analysis. This is a tough call. It's a tough call. She said the same thing about the sewer line, and then she voted against it. Like when she first abstained from the vote a couple weeks ago, and then on Tuesday, she voted against it. It's a tough call. Tough call. Well, look, you need to stop using that phrase because you're an elected leader, and tough calls are what you have to campaign. That's what you're there. You campaigned on being able to make the tough choices. All leaders do. Suck it up. Make the choice. All right? Think of what the Eleanor Roosevelt quote is. Something along the lines of vote your conscience, and because you'll be criticized anyway. So that's just the way it is. But to constantly say, well, that's a tough call. Governing is tough, no matter what level it is. Don't come to the city, people, and say, well, this is just so hard. Then why are you there? Goodness gracious. Replacing the pool could cost anywhere between $5 million to $15 million, Van Gundy said. Yeah, closing pools suck, but again, this goes back to the sewer line issue on this way. The city has no problem. This city leadership has had very little to no problem cutting spending on services. And if anybody running for mayor, if anyone listens to what I'm about to say here, get this. You got to make the argument that your taxes are going up and your services are going down. How is that fair? I mean, if the city really wanted to save some people some money, as I said before, be austere with your entity in and of itself, but why not lower your share of the sales tax? I mean, that's something that I've been barking on for a while. Not publicly. I'm going to come out with a piece here not too long from now, saying how the city should really do this. Not quite ready for that just yet, but that's the gist. I mean, if you really want to give people a tax cut, you really want people to feel tax relief, lower the city's share of the sales tax. Nothing wrong with that. But you can't go around saying, I'm wanting to save people money by cutting services and then raising people's taxes and then not cutting the real problem. And I just have another little criticism here for Mayor Payne is that, he loves to go around saying, well, look, you're going to have candidates who say that, we'll spend more money on this and this and this and just be Santa Claus. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, giving political cover to McBrayer and Massengale. And he knows it. Now, he won't admit it. Let's just be clear. There won't be an admission, well, that Landry guy's right. I really did do that. He's not going to say that. We should all be very honest about that. But that's what it is. That's an inadvertent attack to anyone who says the government should serve people. The government should actually be an entity of good. That it should actually try to improve people's lives in the capacity that it can. And so you try to do that, you're somehow Santa Claus. What a weird thing to say, Santa Claus. Of course, Mayor Payne's not running for re-election, so he's out of here. And quite honestly, I wish I could push him out the door. I'm not a fan of his. Look, I know governing's tough, and you're not going to make everybody happy, but priorities are what your priorities are. And his priority was never really the city. I've never felt that he made the city a priority. I always felt that he made his law firm a priority. All right? I don't think he liked the job. I don't think he enjoyed actually being mayor. I don't think he wanted that at all. I've also heard about some health issues, whatever. But I think it basically comes down to one thing and one thing alone, is that he didn't like being mayor. And it didn't matter who could convince him to stay. It wasn't going to happen. All right. Folks, that's all for today. If you are interested in advertising with Drew, advertising on the Outsider podcast, send me an email. That's dlandry9@protonmail.com. dlandry9@protonmail.com. Send me an email and we can get your advertisements on the Outsider podcast before or after the episode. All right? Appreciate everyone listening. Hope you have a tremendous rest of your day or evening or morning whenever you're listening. I appreciate all your help. Share this episode with whomever you'd like. Hopefully it circulates, and we'll see you again very, very soon.